So the first thing that gets installed are the diodes. I've got them all sorted out here. The footprints for the diodes are tinier than my little lead forming tool provides. So I'm just going to bend them by hand. They are polarized, and the polarization is marked on the silk screen. The band on the diode, of course, goes to the band in the silk screen. Really, we just want to walk through here and get them all loaded up. I'm trying to bend the lead so the diode's fairly square. Just drop it down in. Get it dropped down in. Keeping an eye on polarity. It's a nice looking PC board. Obviously, a lot of effort and thought was put into it. It's well silk screened. Everything looks to be marked really well. I don't know how many revisions he's been through, or if he got it, you know, done very well the first time around. The diode doesn't want to lay in flush. You can see there on the board there's a nice prototyping area up on top. There's some footprints in the upper left hand corner for Max 232. Those are TTL to RS 232 level converters. I will probably go ahead and stuff this board all the way out, including actual RS 232 ports. Though I don't really have any old terminals to use with it. A lot of diodes. Again, I'm paying attention to the black band on the diodes, and of course the marking on the silk screen. It looks like all these diodes around all these switches down here go in the same orientation, with the black band on the diode towards the switches. I think I mentioned before, I'm looking forward to this kit. It'll be fun to play with. It's like a really well thought out and well executed reproduction. I built a couple of the Spare Time Gizmos PDP8s back in the day, you know, the full-blown one with the nice paddle switches and everything, and like a fool I sold it. I've actually seen it pop up on eBay and be resold again. Turned out really nice. Had a custom frame made for the front panel and anything, and it was a very nice looking little machine. It was a lot of fun to play with. But life happens. And as far as I can tell, you know, although the Spare Time Gizmos website was still there, last time I looked, I think the owner just isn't active anymore. I met him in 2006, I believe. My God, that would be 12 years ago, 13 years ago, at the Vintage Computer Festival down in Mountain View, California. That's where I actually bought the first kit of his. Trying to think of his name, Robert. Not sure. I still see a little bit of activity on the Spare Time Gizmos forums, but he just doesn't seem to be active in the community anymore. Again, I'm paying attention to the band on the diodes. Get one in the wrong orientation, that switch or even other switches might not work. You didn't go in flush. You know, there's a lot of people that have contributed ultimately to the creation of this kit. Of course, I don't remember any of their names, but you know, the Blinking Lights library, the SimH emulator, Raspberry Pi environment. You know, Oscar, who designed the board here, and all of this. Just a lot of people have contributed to this. It's an amazing time to be alive when I can spend a couple $100 and in less than a week from Sweden have something like this delivered. Just amazing what you can do with emulation. A few of the previous videos I've posted went through the process of getting the Raspberry Pi all set up, getting SimH on it, getting the operating systems for the PDP11 on it. That went pretty smoothly. I'm guessing probably not getting great visual of the diodes on the board just because the board's so dark, although I'd have to review the video to know for sure. So we've got, well, I can hear Nemo wandering around behind me. So we've got all those diodes in. A bit of blue painter's tape. They almost all look good. That one's in a little squirrely. Just to kind of hold them all in place. And we solder. Oh, Nemo, he's coughing. Now, I've got my soldering pencil set to 350C. That's my normal soldering temperature. I watched a video from somebody else assembling his kit, and he had mentioned in the instructions it said to use a much lower temperature, and he struggled with that. I'm of course not going to recommend you use 350. Use whatever works well for you. For me, it's a good comfortable soldering temperature. It has minimum dwell time. The solder flows well. I've never had issues at this temperature with lifting traces. Doesn't mean you won't have issues with, you know, traces getting lifted or, oops, that really didn't solder well. Some of these are floating a little bit. Saw that lead move right there as the solder hardened up, so I reflowed it. Don't think I have the right glasses on for this. That's not a very good looking joint. They all look fine. Lock down the outside edge here and solder this side up. And trim the leads, and then get the last few diodes on. And we'll have the diodes completed. Like the way that solder joint looks up there. Solder keeps hitting one of the diode leads and getting pushed out of the way of where I need it to go. I'm really impressed with the detail and the work put into this kit to actually have injection molded case parts. It's truly amazing. You know, as we saw in the unboxing video, case components look amazing. I think he's sold over 2,000 of these kits so far, which is also amazing. Definitely says there's a market for this kind of stuff. You know, it may not be huge, but that's still an amazing number of kits. Where did I lose the flush cutters at? As I said before, I am holding the leads so they don't go flying off into space and poking me in the eye or getting lost in carpet or getting into something that's up on a shelf that I don't want them in. Based on the way these leads are cutting, I'm pretty sure they're steel leads. They're a little firm. I think they're copper. I have no idea. They're probably, you know, steel. It's a lot of diodes. diodes up by the rotary switches. Up here it looks like there's 6 diodes there and 1 there. And if I remember what I read in the little manual or the instructions, that should be all of them. I of course printed that out and it's downstairs, and again I got to pay attention to polarity. I almost put that diode in backwards. He does say that there's, a few extra components in the bag, so if you've got a diode or 2 left over, not to worry about it. Just kind of visually make sure they're all in. So it does look like I'm going to have a few left over. And there's one down here. The orientation of all those looks correct. I do believe that's all the diodes. I prefer the blue painter's tape just because it doesn't leave any tack behind when you peel it off. It's definitely more expensive than regular masking tape, and I just prefer it. Oops. Just soldering one lead on each one if I can get the solder around the component legs. There's one over here. And those look absolutely fine. Solder the other leg. Just a solder joint. And we have I believe that's all the diodes. There's 4 left. I think we're safe to move on to the resistors. Take a look at what we've got here. There's a whole bunch labeled 390. There's 231K. I'm confused why there's so many resistors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 4, 8, 12. Those are orange, white, black, black. There's that brown, white. These are all, like they're all, no, there's a 10K there. Must appear to be some 10Ks and some 1Ks as well in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 1Ks that I see on the board. These must all be 1K, but I'm going to go ahead and confirm. Better safe than sorry. These should be 390s. Let me get this where you can actually see it while I measure. 378 ohm. So these are the 390s. I may be breaking his assembly order here. I don't know for sure. But for these low-hanging components, it shouldn't matter. Overload, because it's in the 400 ohm range. 1K. The ones that look orangish to me are the ones I'm concerned about here, because those would be 10K. That's 1K, and it may just be slight variations in the paint that was used, or just my eyes, or the lighting here, or whatever, but I am going to confirm these are all 1K. And they are. See if the lead forming tool is going to be useful for these, and it's not. So I will do them by hand. I've got the tolerance band up. Did I solder that accidentally? I sure did. We'll come back to that hole. I accidentally soldered one of the resistor holes. So I'll need to clear that out. And I'm just making sure the orientation is the same. The resistors are not polarized, but I like having the color coding consistently the same direction on all the resistors. I just think it looks nicer. Of course, this will be in a case. Nobody will know but me, but that's the point. I will know. There's 3 there. There's 1 there, 1 there. Let's see if I've got enough heat here to clear that hole back out. And I do. Oops. Looks like there might be 1 extra 1K ohm resistor where I just haven't spotted where it goes. Did it not clear on both sides? No, it didn't clear on both sides. So I'll hit it from this side. That's better. down flush. I managed to bend the leads on this one all over the place. These leads are pretty soft, so I'm just going to go ahead and attempt to solder both sides. I don't know why that didn't take solder. That's better. I'm afraid if I just solder one side and pull the tape off, it'll partially pull the resistor up off the board. Should be all of them. And we can trim leads. Yeah, these are much softer leads. Twelve, 390 ohm. I'm going to cut these loose rather than pull them out of the tape, because sometimes when you pull them out you end up with little bits of glue on the leads, and then the glue catches down in the hole. When you push the resistor through, you get a bad solder joint. I find it's just better to cut the tape away. Tape on the table exactly where I want my elbow to be. The tricky parts of this are going to be the switches. Based on looking at the instructions, there's a fair amount of process to go through to get them all in and get them in reasonably straight. I'm going to do the two outer groups, and I'll solder these up, and then I'll do that inner group of 4, just because there's a lot of leads over there that'll be in the way of each other. It should be a fun kit to take into work. Let all the youngsters play with. It's fun to get the solder into. only component that goes on the back of the board is the GPIO connector for the Pi, which actually mounts here on the back of the board, and then of course the Pi gets plugged in on the back of the board. And of course that makes sense. And if you watched one of my other assembly videos, you saw me almost put the Pi on the wrong side of the board. I believe that was the Altar 8800 kit. That would have been sad to have done. 4 more resistors. Again, they're non-polarized, as the diodes are polarized. I just put them in the same orientation because it looks better. You've heard me say it 10 times now. I think we're just about done with diodes and resistors here. Really like the fact that he's got the expansion area on there. It looks like somebody has already done something with a I2C device, I think, off the like a temp sensor or something, connected to the Pi, and then is able to read it in 1170 emulation. That's just kind of cool. You know, that one resistor is crooked as compared to the others, and I don't like that. Come on, solder. It's always the day before I'm going to solder, I trim my fingernails, and then I can't pick anything up. Oh, I'm getting some really lousy looking solder joints there. That really looks horrid. And I'm not sure why. Not too bad. So we've got diodes and resistors. I don't see any place else where diodes or resistors would get mounted on the board. So I think that pretty much wraps up what we were going to do in this video, and that was diodes and resistors. So we'll pick up the build in a future video.